So I wake up that morning, I'm super excited, super stoked. I'm thinking in my head, this is finally the end of worrying about, thinning and going bald, and I'm going to have a full set of hair back. So I jump on the plane and I go to, this other company that I decided to go with at the time, and got the procedure done. And, at first, I was still excited. I'm coming home and I'm super stoked. I'm like, I'm finally, I got a full set of hair. I'm good. And after probably the first couple of days, things start to settle down. I looked in the mirror and I was like, holy shit, what just happened to my head? Basically how it all started is I went in there for a consultation, and that's kind of where, looking back, is where the misleading, statements came from. I was very upfront with them and told them that, I'm a musician and I'm subject to like different lighting conditions, and I like to be outside a lot. I get photos taken with flash. Is there any chance that this is not going to look natural, or is going to look, funky under different light? And the answer was clearly no. You're going to be totally fine. So the reason, obviously, I chose to get scalp micropigmentation done was, to boost my confidence. Obviously I was starting to go bald. I was, thinning. The way my head is now is kind of how I was wearing it, and it definitely affected me. Dropped my confidence. And the one thing I can say is, after going through with this company and getting the procedure done from them, my confidence took a major drop, and I've gone through some of the worst, anxiety and like paranoia that I've ever gone through, as an end result of their procedure. It almost literally brought me to tears. It was so bad. I guess the big thing is I had no one to go to at that point. I had no support from this company. I'm just left at home with my wife. She doesn't know what's going on. She's telling me, what the hell's wrong with your head? It looks like bluish. So I'm sitting there freaking out. It put me in almost like a state of depression where I just didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to go anywhere. I was in probably one of the worst spots in my life after this. This is the result right now of getting it lasered off. So I had it done about 5 months ago, and did a lot of research, ended up going with one of the bigger name brands out there. Kind of fell into the whole big forum thing that they have. I totally lost confidence in scalp micropigmentation. I thought it was just, a bunch of BS, and maybe, all the pictures are fabricated, or, maybe there's a 1 in 10 people that actually it does look good on, and, those are the ones that you're seeing. So I totally lost confidence in the procedure until I found Scalp Aesthetics and saw some of the results that are coming out of here, and actually seeing live results and seeing the people here that had it done. You really cannot tell. And when you can be right up on their head, and the dots it looks like a follicle. It doesn't look like a dot. And that's what I thought originally this procedure was all about, is to replicate a follicle and make it look like you have a shaved down look, not a head full of dots. So, if I had a head like Corey or Eric, I'd be fine getting up close to somebody and talking to them, or not worrying about being under the sunlight, because you could get right up on it and not tell. Where, again, with this other company and the procedure I had done, it was a constant game of, if I'm talking to somebody, don't get too close, or don't look at the top of my head. So again, I was more paranoid and more anxious to talk to people with it than without it. I think the key word that comes to my mind when going through the process here at Scalp Aesthetics is natural. I couldn't be happier with how natural this looks. I would honestly say it's probably, I would say 100% undetectable if you didn't know I had it done. You could seriously come, right up to my head, look, be inches away, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between one of the dots or a real follicle. And that's a huge difference for me. As you can see from the pictures when I had it at the competitor, it was just extremely too dark for my skin complexion. The dots were very, very large, and obviously it had that weird tint to it, almost like a bluish tint. Just the color was not natural, and it didn't look like, like hair. It just looked like someone painted stuff on my head. Whereas to here, as you can see, it's, it blends in perfectly with the sides, You know, if you were to get close up and look at my scalp, I mean, you cannot see the I mean, they look like follicles. They don't look like, you know, someone took a Sharpie and you know, poked it on my head. So it's like I said, it's 100% natural. I'm extremely happy. It always looked awkward in different lighting situations, and that had a huge impact on me for, you know, when I played out with my band and stuff like that. Whereas now, you know, I gained that confidence back, and I don't have to worry about, you know, is that light shining on me making my head look blue, or is it, you know, making my head look purple? You know, this treatment looks natural and always 100% under any lighting conditions. And obviously, you know, I did play a show with this treatment, with the new treatment, and you know, it looked awesome. You know, it was 100% undetectable, and there's no color issues whatsoever. It just looked like, you know, I went up there and I had a shaved head. You know, just from the first treatment to now, it's just been like night and day, and it just, each time I came back, it's just gotten better and better and better and looked more natural, and to the point where it is now, which again I feel is just 100% undetectable. And you know, even myself sometimes I can't tell which is that a dot or is that my hair follicle. So, and you know, that's obviously what you're looking for in a procedure like this.